Okay guys, so we're going to share with you some of the solutions that we have found, and we actually found these by working with a counselor. I mean, that's something that's helped us a ton.
Right.
You gonna go?
Oh.
I thought you were gonna vibe off that. Welcome back to our show, guys. We really appreciate you clicking on the video and staying tuned in with us.
So today we are going to be talking about communicating during fights. And if we're keeping it honest here, we are still in the struggle spot for this, like 100%. And I feel like it's because I'm a type A, he's a type A, and we butt heads a lot. I am a very strong, opinionated person, as is he. And so when it comes to diffusing things, it doesn't happen as naturally as it would for maybe everybody else. So today we're going to talk about how we communicate, where we can talk without bringing too much of our emotions into it, or maybe for me. So
by the end of this video, we're going to give you at least 2 ways that we use. So 2 solutions that we implement that actually help us a lot when it comes to when we're in a disagreement, when we're fighting, or when we're heated in the moment.
Yeah.
So stay tuned because we're going to give you those solutions at the end of this video. When was our most recent fight?
I mean, we bicker a lot with each other. I shouldn't say a lot because it's not a lot. I mean, maybe for other people it would look like a lot, but for us it's not. I mean, we bicker, but like big, like explosive fights. I would say where you didn't pick up my phone calls for like consecutive amount of days, and I was super pissed.
She thought I was ignoring her on purpose.
Yeah. Okay. But you got to think about how I think too, because it's like, what if I had just gotten into a car accident and you didn't pick up my phone call? And it wasn't like he didn't pick up my phone call one time. It was like multiple days of him not picking up my phone call and like not texting me back or anything like that. And again, this may seem so small, and it probably is to some people out there. And I think when I think about it, it is like a small thing now.
But during the time,
it was super important for me because I was like, I need an answer like right now. Like, you need to answer me right now. I don't know why you're ignoring me. And I just got super mad.
And I think a lot of people realize that when we step away from the topic, and now it's been days, weeks, I don't remember how long ago that was. But I know, like, now when she's explaining it and when I hear it, it's just like it wasn't really a big deal, and that's what's important. Like when
Isn't that
time,
funny?
Yeah,
how that happens.
When time goes on, you're like, that really wasn't important for us to be mad about, and that's part of a solution in the future that we're going to talk about.
I'm just like, you couldn't click over and be like, hey, I'm on a call. I'll call you right back. About to get me all heated again about it.
And that was our most recent fights that we had because. When I called her back, you want to tell her what? I'll tell you. When I called her back, and because I missed that call, right? She goes, "Why'd you miss my call?" I can't remember what she said because there was so much energy coming out on that line that I immediately got defensive and got like heated too. I got very upset because I was thinking, why do I gotta answer like when you call right away? Like, why do I have to? Like, I felt like it was her saying that when I call, you always answer, like a boss kind of situation. And that's something I'm dealing with too, where it's challenging because I'm very type A and she's type A. So when she comes at me with that type A energy. And you know how that is if you're type A like me, right? You know how that can be. So it created like a huge friction between us on that call. And I just said, look, the way you're acting right now on this phone call, it's not going to make me want to answer future calls. Like, this is not the solution. And then we kind of hung up right at that moment. Don't freaking think like you've never been in a situation where you've been like in that kind of, bickerment. I'm sure you have. If you haven't, then I'm sure it happened one time.
Good for you.
Right. So when it comes to trying to solve that fight, I like to just like, hey, let's sit down. Let's talk right now. Like, let's talk about it. And she is like...
I am not like that.
Yeah.
I will sweep it under the rug for as long as possible. I just don't like confrontation, even though it's kind of contradicting to the way I acted on the phone, I guess. But like for when it comes to resolving issues and talking about it, like I'm like, don't talk to me. Like I don't want to discuss this. It's just forget about it. It'll be fine tomorrow.
What usually ends up happening is it gets worse, right? Because then we don't talk about it. So I know that can happen. So I'm like, we got to talk about this now. And my biggest challenge is I'm always like pushing. Like, I'm like, let's talk about it. She's like, I don't want to talk about it. Instead of respecting that and giving her more time, I just keep on pushing. And it becomes an explosive reaction, really. It becomes like, I'm like, you know that old saying that a lot of people say, don't poke the bear. It's like, you don't want to mess with someone when they're upset. And if you do, what do you expect to happen? Well, usually what happens is we get into a bigger fight, right? And if we get into a bigger fight, then this is where these solutions that we're about to talk about really help us a ton. So if you ever get into like maybe a baby fight and then it becomes bigger, try these out.
Or if you're like me and you sweep it under the rug once, you sweep it under the rug again, you have another fight, you sweep it under the rug, you sweep it under the rug. It's stacking. And it's you're going to hit your boiling point at some point or the other. So I think the advice that I'm also going to give is really going to help the people who are like me, and just it'll be fine tomorrow,
Okay, guys, so we're going to share with you some of the solutions that we have found, and we actually found these by working with a counselor. I mean, that's something that's helped us a ton.
Our first solution that has really come in handy, especially for somebody like me, I'm somebody who really values mental capacity when it comes to having conversations about the tough stuff. So because typically what I do, I stonewall, where I'm just like, I don't want to talk about anything right now. Like, just give me some space. We found that when we take a break, maybe we're in the middle of the conversation and I'm just like, I need a 30-minute break. And when I surrender to my emotions and I notice and I recognize that I'm getting too emotional, or I'm getting really upset or really heated, or we've started to yell at each other, then we're just like, we need a break. It could be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 5 minutes a day, however long you feel you need to gather yourself back to what you were prior to the conversation. That has worked for us.
It really has. But for me, it wasn't working at first because I'm very pushy. I like to get to the problem. I like to solve it right now. And when I do that, when I push her and I'm like, we got to talk about this now, it would literally blow up in my face, right? It would make it worse. And no one would win during that. And so what I do now, whenever she needs that time, maybe it's a day, maybe it's an hour, whatever it is, I'm able to like go in my own room, right? And figure out, like, if I don't talk about it, I go insane. So what I try to do is I write it all down. Like, I'll type it on my notepad and how I'm feeling with no filter, so that way I can get all these emotions out. And then it makes me feel a lot better. So that way, whenever I can give her that space that she needs, I'm not going to be just bugging. And that's really helped me a lot during that interim time where I'm not talking to her, because there's probably other people out there who want to solve the problem now, and they probably go get even worse because I got high anxiety if I don't talk about it right now.
And there's probably people like me who are just like, I don't want to talk about this. This is just too much for me. I need some time to gather my thoughts, gather my emotions, and just kind of figure out how I want this to come out without sacrificing the true emotion and how I really feel. So I think that it works both ways, because in the time that I have the 30-minute break, I'm just like, what do I want to say? What am I trying to say that he is not understanding? What part of the conversation where's the gap? So I think that the time that we have to be able to do that really helps.
I think the time also helps with kind of seeing the other person's perspective, and also helping.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it really does. It helps me see her perspective sometimes, where I'm just like, oh, I can really see how I was being that way at that time, right? And it also helps me almost sometimes realize this might not be a big deal. Like, here's a solution. Like, here's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And so it helps us a lot. Now, during conversations,
in the moment, I'm just like this to him, and it is really hard, but I think it takes a lot of effort and a lot of self-awareness to kind of understand what you're feeling. I'm getting really overwhelmed. Like, we need to take a break. So I did not have that when we first started our relationship, and I would blow up. And it's not healthy to be able to do something like that. So
we want to give you solution number 2, which is after you've already taken your break, right before you've had a conversation, and now you're in the conversation. What's helped us a lot is, we call it we kind of joke around, it's like a time bomb, right? in a way of maybe she's like, okay, we have an hour for this conversation.
And I'll say, so I'll say like, you have an hour. Because sometimes I know for me and people like me, I get so overwhelmed and stressed out. And I'm just like, I want this conversation to end. We need to get to the point, get it over with. And what is the actual problem? How are we going to solve it? And so I say, we have an hour. And I think in that time, he's like, oh, we got an hour? All right. So this is, it gets to the point. So that, I know I've seen that that's helped both of us. From a sanity perspective, because you can only fight so much with your spouse, and because there's so many other things going on, it's the last thing that you want to do when you come home is fight with the other person. So when you figure out, we have 1 hour to figure this out, and if it doesn't work, we're gonna come back and visit tomorrow. And the same thing with the breaks and the time bomb of sorts. So both of these solutions, like we said, we've got from our marriage counselor, and they've worked for us. And have they worked for you?
It's worked a lot because, and then say time bomb, because if it goes past that time, then that's when things start getting like heated, right? Then things can start, exploding. And so this prevents that from happening. And it's helped me a lot and helped me getting straight to the point, especially when we have a limited time period. But it also shows that, hey, we have this slot to solve it, and we're both here together to solve the problem, which is huge, because you both got to be there to help each other solve it.
It's hard for me. It was definitely hard for me in the beginning, because I'm, again, somebody who sweeps it under the rug. But if you're like me and you do that, it's not good, just letting you know, because it does, if you let that brew for so long, it's going to boil over and you're gonna blow up. And I do that sometimes, and it's something that I know I'm working on, and I think the solutions that we've brought to the table have really changed the dynamic in our relationship when we are in these hard fights.
So thank you guys so much for watching this video. We really appreciate it. We know that you can be watching so many other videos. We know that, the fact that you took the time to watch it with us, we really appreciate it. And because you did that, comment below. Let us know how you like the content. Let us know if you've found another solution, because she was saying earlier, what if we just had...
I'm like, please let me know.
She was like, what if we had 3? That'll sound better. But we use 2, right? So if you have a third one that you can share with us, please do, because we would love to get better too at these, because it's going to happen. Fights happen all the time. It's how you manage yourself during the fight, and I mean yourself, because you can only manage yourself, and what you can use as solutions, as tools to make yourself better during those situations. Then you can grow together and move forward. So hopefully this helps you. Let us know if you have any other advice for us.